Show and Tell Signature.
Welcome back to Show and Tell Signature. This is just some of my favorite friends talking about their favorite decks. Today I am joined by Kevin Cole, creator of Space Kings. Really cool way to play a tabletop kind of RPG system. And we're going to be talking about his Terra Magical Adept Commander deck. Terra is one of the new Final Fantasy commanders. She's a 4/2 for 1 and a red and a green. When Terra enters, mill 5 cards, put up to 1 enchantment milled this way into your hand. She has Trance, so 4 in Gruul, red and green. You can tap, exile Terra, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. And then when you flip Terra, she becomes Esper Terra, 6/6 flyer, and she has a lot of stuff, so we're just going to go through this real fast. The first 3 chapters, I'm just like, sometimes I read this card, I'm like, God, there's so much going on here.
Oh yeah, it's a book. It's a whole book.
It's a whole book. Okay, so create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary enchantment you control. It gains haste. If it's a saga, put up to 3 lore counters on it. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. So you get that 3 times, and then in the 4th chapter, you add double white, double blue, double black, double red, and double green. Exile Esper Terra, then return it to the battlefield front face up. Yes, a lot going on there. I guess at the end of the day, basic idea is enchantments. We have this. So Moxfield has this kind of generically listed as a bracket 2 deck. No game changers, which is pretty cool. Bracket 2 is a great way to play. So let's just talk about what is the basic idea of this deck when you're playing it, Kevin.
So the basic idea of this deck is I wanted to make a commander deck that would match up with kind of the long, sometimes overstuffed games of commander that I play with my home group. We have a lot of proxies and a lot of dads in the group, so it's sort of like it's hard to judge what the power level is at any given time. If someone is losing too much, they just go to their office printer and start getting better cards. But all of mine are authentic in paper. So the idea of this deck and how it plays is I want to threaten my group with very concerning player removal in the first half so that they wear out their removal and target me aggressively. And then in the second half of the game, when I'm deemed as like too tired or no longer a threat, I can do all this Jund graveyard stuff and have my second wave. So I either go fast and hit hard. It's basically just Jund. Like you can build Terra any way you want. She's technically 5 colors. But I went with Jund because 1, I really wanted Jund Enchantress, and there isn't really a commander that gives me that. And 2, I like this idea of going fast in the early game, and then once you're like the other 3 players have said no to you enough times, surprise, you're back again, and now you have tons and tons of resources from your graveyard.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's appropriately named Terra Jundamount.
Jundamount.
Yep, Jundamount. Sometimes you just got to Jundamount. And I thought, for me, and I don't know why it struck me as such a novel concept, because it's really, it's not, but it is. Building a 5-color commander, but not using all 5 colors, right? I think for me, I was like, oh yeah, you don't have to use all 5 colors just because it's a 5-color commander. Like that's not, there's no rule. You're not forced to do that. And I think building a commander that way kind of gives you, if you're. It's like a weird kind of catch-22. Like you might be limited yourself if you're not accessing, white or blue, but you're kind of like allowing yourself to build a more focused. Like anytime I try to build a 5-color commander, I get lost in the weeds of like, well, I need this this from green and this from pick and choosing. But being able to kind of focus in a little more probably makes it a little easier to kind of actually construct the deck. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who like buys all their cards and doesn't print them out, if I had more than one 5-color deck going, I would be spending a lot of money on lands, and yes. I feel like as a player, that's what I'm less excited about. I kind of just want to play as many basics as possible and still be scrappy, which is still possible in some 5-color decks, especially if you lean green. Yeah. But for Terra, I was like, no, my dream deck is kind of this Jund Enchantress deck, and I love Final Fantasy VI, I love Terra. I got all these cool art set cards from the Final Fantasy set that I wanted to play. So there are a lot of non-optimal picks that still lead to very fun plays, which I think is the real spirit of Commander, is playing what you have.
Exactly. No, I think there's nothing wrong with proxies if that's what you want to do.
No.
I mean, like sometimes cards can be expensive, and to your point, especially if you're playing five color commander with a 5-color strategy, the lands are really going to make up the bulk of what you're trying to between triomes and shock lands and surveil lands. Now, like that can get pretty pricey pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. And you don't like really need them. Like this is like a good. This is like a good test of like what are those like other like 25-30 cent lands that like like how do you get around that comes into play tapped problem, or how do you get around that that like downside problem. Like it sucks to get like I know like the argument for expensive land bases is like you don't get to play nearly as much as you want. When you do get to sit down and play, you kind of want to be able to actually cast your spells, which I very much understand.
Yes.
But I think this this is kind of a non-typical like deck in a lot of ways. I don't feel very evenly spread out between my 3 colors. I'm very centered in green. I had Rakdos lands in the original build of the deck, but I ended up taking them out because I need that access to green really fast to do the rest of my mana fixing.
Yeah.
At this low power level.
That makes sense. And sometimes when you're deck building, everything doesn't always need to be the most optimal version of a deck, right? Yeah. And using a budget mana base can be a way to kind of depower maybe an overall powerful deck. Is it both obviously from a financial standpoint, but just from like maybe you're playing some slower tap lands or a Guildgate or something, and it's just a way to like balance like a play group or just what you're trying to achieve with a particular deck. It's definitely kind of a good way to approach a situation.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like this deck with my play group I think works really, really well. Bringing it to like a game store or something like that, I don't think it would perform very well since those tend to be a little higher power. But again, it's it's a fun, silly type 2 deck that a lot of precons in my group. I think it goes like toe to toe with them, and it gets to do like these big crazy plays that are very counterable, but they still feel awesome. Like getting Odin out and just having that threaten the board. Feels great.
Oh yeah, Odin is like super cool. The art, honestly, all of the versions of Odin are fun. But like, just some great art in that set. And like, anytime you have a creature that if it connects with someone, they lose the game. Like, pretty fun way to play.
Yeah, makes people take notice. Yeah,
exactly. So, what drew you to building Terra specifically?
Specifically, I really just love Final Fantasy VI. It was totally a flavor decision, if I'm being honest. And I could really tell from like that Terra Magical Adept like design that this was a really good expression of what Final Fantasy VI is actually like to play. It's very Final Fantasy VI has very, very customizable characters.
Yeah,
you can kind of turn any character into a mage or a fighter or whatever. Some are better than others, but it's very much about like getting characters with like these base abilities and then sort of pitching up the power level with them until they're doing crazy stuff like, the Windlord Gao cheat where like you can get Gao to attack infinitely if he's a stray cat or whatever. Like that's like I love Final Fantasy 6 is about breaking the game at a little bit on a mechanical level. And I think Magic and Commander specifically is about that too. It's about finding those synergies and those like intended combos, maybe intended, maybe not. But I also just love seeing, I want to run as many as Terra's friends in there as possible. So actual Gao, I might make a mono red out of Gao because he's just like really, really aggressive and really, really like an interesting play style that like reminds me of that red black Phoenix card, the legendary Phoenix tribal typo card that we got a few years ago. I think Xerix, I think it's Xerix or something like that.
Oh yes, what is Xerix?
It wasn't very impactful. So.
Yeah.
But I tried to build that and that didn't really work out, but Gao seems just like, that, but better. Even there are a lot of good like mono red commanders. I've seen some like really good ideas for Sabin from Final Fantasy VI. Like the fact that you can cast your commander infinitely as many times as you want from the graveyard with basically no commander tax is like pretty interesting.
Yeah. Anytime you can buy, I mean, you think about, it's not a Yuriko, but Commander Ninjutsu is notably, or Derevi is another one. Anytime you can edge a little more value out of your commander, usually is a good thing, or a powerful thing. Maybe not a good thing, but it's a powerful thing. I guess I should say. And what's really cool about this deck. I mean, I think building for flavor is all a very cool way to build a deck. Just a lot of Final Fantasy cards in here. There's obviously, you mentioned Gao. You have Princess Sarah, the Azusa art. You got Olivia,
that is such an emotional pick. Like that is. I just love that art so much. I love how that card is framed. I remember seeing like some of the preview cards for like the Amano art and like the the screen caps from Final Fantasy. I remember seeing all those in preview season, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it. Like, I don't really think this is going to be like this. Kind of seems lazy or whatever." But then, like, actually seeing the card, like the physical card, like seeing that Amano art on a Magic card with that print quality was like amazing. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sometimes it comes down to I have to discard a card, and the Princess Sarah Azusa is like sadly the one that gets discarded more often than not. But it does feel really fun when people are expecting you to play your commander on turn 3, and suddenly you're dumping all of your land from your hand onto the battlefield with Azusa. So like that's a powerful card, but in this deck, honestly, I don't have a lot that enables it. I've got one like landfall trigger that proliferates, which goes insane. But other than that, like Azusa is pretty much like kind of ignorable.
It's I feel like it's one of those cards that when she does her job, you're usually in a pretty good spot, right? You could play an extra 2, 1 or 2 lands on a turn. Or if you manage to draw a bunch of cards and have some extra lands, be able just to flush out your available mana, makes it so you can cast spells, right? Double spell, even triple spell. Maybe late game, it's not super beneficial, but you get on down, turn 2, turn 3, like it can kind of put you in a good spot for an entire game session,
And with the amount of card draw I have in this deck, like one of the cards that goes wild in this deck that you wouldn't believe is Anima.
Okay.
Anima, like that Saga ability that happens 3 times, you get to draw a card, lose a life. When you're copying that with Terra's flipped ability, you're getting 3 cards and losing 3 life, and you can do that multiple turns in a row. Yeah. So that's really, and Odin draws you cards too, but you're probably going to want him to like go in for the kill and like destroy stuff. You'll lose Odin if you do the triple Saga trigger on Odin, but you won't lose Anima. So like, Anima getting in there to draw 3 cards, like I definitely skew more toward I am going to be flooded out with mana. I'm going to need cards to draw. Card draw is very, very important. And it's kind of a lot of what Black is doing in this deck. I think there's a really fun build of this where you do red, green, blue.
Okay.
And have blue pick up the card draw. There's probably some like wild like enchantment stuff you can do over there. But the reason I went red, green, black, Jund is I think Black has the coolest summons, like Anima and Odin, and this is just like this is my aesthetics deck. So
yeah, no, definitely. That's pretty fun. Some other just notes, just kind of going through the deck on stuff. First thing I saw, 37 lands. I think a lot of people would be pretty impressed with like, it's a good land count.
Down from 40. That's so I'm trying to build less with computers. I'm trying to build more like just from my head and using metrics that I understand and just play testing and doing hand tests and stuff like that. Using the computer for that to like save my shuffling muscles.
Yeah.
But There are a lot of great tools online. Architect has a lot of great tools. Moxfield has a lot of great tools. But I kind of like the process of deck building, and I wanted to be a little closer to it. And basically what I did for this process was I started at 40, which many people would consider far overlanded. And I just gently walked that back down, replacing lands with card draw or something similar, until I felt like my late game card draw had enough volume to sort of remove the dead draw as an issue. And I need a really strong start with this. I need green mana fast. I'd love to have all my colors, but I need green, red, and then if black comes along later, fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, just again, I want to cast my spells. I don't have access to expensive lands. I'm just going to run more lands and work around that. And I've cannibalized a couple of my lesser played decks to, grab an Urgborg Tomb of Yawgmoth to throw in there. And that's, that goes wild with filth. And that's the other kind of half of the deck is using Terra's ability, not so much for enchantments, but just as like 5 cards into your graveyard if you're planning for it. That's almost as good as drawing 5 cards sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I have a lot of flashback. I have a lot of aftermath. I have a fair amount of Harmonize from the latest Tarkir set.
Yep.
There are a lot of good Harmonize cards in there. And that's sort of like, I can whiff with Terra and it doesn't feel bad because usually I either put a big reanimation target in my graveyard or I put a flashback spell in my graveyard. I can use that like second graveyard as a resource. So even if I'm not getting like that card draw, like that enchantment in hand off of Terra's Enters the Battlefield ability, it's still going to be something that helps me later that my play group will have a devil of a time tracking because, after like once we hit game 2, people start being like, okay, what's in Kevin's graveyard? Like, Kevin, can you list all the cards in your graveyard?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, to your point too, I had written down, I know Anger is a very popular commander card, but Filth I think is slept on a little bit.
Filth is so good.
You could say it's filthy. It's a filthy card.
I would on record.
On record. But that combined with Urborg, all your get Filth in the grave. All your creatures are suddenly unblockable, right? Like Swamp Walk, and black just in general is a popular color, so there's most likely someone's probably going to be playing black somewhere.
And Urgborg in general is a popular land. Like you're going to run into that sometimes, not even in a black deck. So Filth goes off way more than you'd think, and if Odin's out, then that's player removal, which is the sweetest kind of removal.
Yes, it is.
Filth, like that specific Filth card was a pull from I met this guy at my friend's bachelor party who loved Magic back in the day and like told me like this amazing story about like he and his mom would play it, and it's like his mom's a mathematician and like they kind of bonded over like this card game when he was 13, and that's how he got his love of math and stuff like that. And a few days later, we get a shoebox full of Magic cards, and he's like, hey, I went through these and it was a great walk down memory lane, but you can have this. And,
oh, jeez, that's awesome.
And we're like, okay, so we're going through, and of course there was a Ristic Study in there, and and we're like, man, there's a Ristic Study in here, but there was a Filth, and I'm like, well, I'm taking Filth. Like that that card is very scarcely reprinted, and it's just too cool. So that's like a bucket list item, like along with Avatar of Woe. Like back when I was 13, like those cards were the coolest.
I think Avatar of Woe is usually on anytime I have to select like what's your favorite Magic card. It's usually Avatar of Woe. Cool. I still have somewhere one of my binders my original Avatar of Woe. I actually collected so it's funny. I might have been the biggest Prophecy fan for how bad, other than Ristic Study, right? So many, but all the avatars, the Avatar of Might, the Avatar of Whale, those were like I thought those were the coolest cards. I remember I have all 5 somewhere, but Woe was incredible.
I remember being disappointed because I read, I think I was reading the novels along with those sets, and I was like, are they going to mention the Avatar cycle? Like, are they in there? I'm like, maybe it kind of, like, depending on how you choose to interpret it, because Magic lore was so, like, kind like weird and like, you know, sometimes there would be like the legendary characters in the books, and sometimes there would never be.
Yeah.
There'd be characters in the books that would never be represented in the cards. But I was reading the book to see if Avatar of Woe would show up. So
Yeah.
cool stuff.
I mean, just incredible. I mean, just the arcade post art, you know, just
Yes.
the weird jester with the scythe kind of. It's definitely awesome to see.
And it looks so good in that old frame too. It really
yeah.
does that old frame justice. And
Yeah.
I like that it's been reprinted and they kept that same art. But I'd be interested to see a new interpretation of it, honestly, that more fits that new 20-year-old frame or whatever.
Yeah, it actually feels like it'd be a pretty good like Commander Precon card, right? Because you know all the avatars had a cost reduction based on like if your opponent had it was like no cards in hand or a bunch of 7 cards, or you know your total power is like such thing or more. Avatar was like if there was 10 or more creatures in all graveyards, which you know on a 1-on-1 match seems kind of daunting, but in Commander that's it could be turn 3, turn 4 in a lot of cases. Like, you can make that happen pretty easily. So
yeah. And I think probably it's weird, like Battle Cruiser is just not really a play style in Commander much anymore. Like it's not really seen as like a winning way to play the game if all your spells are costing 7 and 8. But I don't know, like there could be a Commander printed in the next year or two that makes Battle Cruiser like more approachable. But like that, like those avatars, especially Avatar of Might, like being able to drop that huge creature down for 2 mana very easily in Commander.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like I know an 8/8 is basically a 4/4 in Commander, but I don't know. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I forget what the Avatar of Might might be 10/10, but I think it's 8/8.
I think it's 8/8. I think it's 8/8 with trample. Yeah, good, some fun cards there. I think we're showing our age here a little bit. Some other interesting notes. Only 2 artifacts in the deck. But Soul Ring. But one I hadn't noticed from Echoes of Eternity, Requiem Monolith. This is kind of a cool card.
I'm so excited you brought up this card. Requiem Monolith is Phyrexian Arena, but good. Like it is such a versatile card, especially if you're playing red. Because tap it, deal 1 damage to target creature if you want, and it gains whenever this creature is dealt damage. You lose that much life and you draw that many cards. So you can easily just kind of tap it for 1, ping Terra. She's 4/2. She can take 1 damage every now and then, and draw your cards that way. Unlike Phyrexian Arena, it doesn't have to see a whole upkeep cycle before you draw a card. So if it gets removed, at least it probably replaces itself.
Yep.
So already, like, we're kind of up on Phyrexian Arena. You do have to control a creature, but again, depending on your deck, that's not so hard. Where it really shines is if you have a lot of red board wipes, like Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act can now read, deal 13 damage to everything, lose 13 life, draw 13 cards.
Yep.
Like, a pretty good deal, I'd say.
Yeah.
And, it can turn some of your other, like, damage-based removal into card draw. You can lightning bolt it and draw 3 cards. Or you can use it as a removal technique and send, like, your 1/1 in against the 10/10. And, like, it's tempting to take that bait and let your opponent draw 10 cards in exchange for 10 damage. Yeah. It's a very politicky card. It's a very efficient card, and it can also work if you're trying to get smaller creatures in your graveyard. If you're trying, it can't go instant speed since it's sorcery speed only, but it's still very tricky and it's still very mind gamey. And I think it has so many interaction points that something it has so many interaction points that most card draw engines don't have. Yeah. I think this is an extremely fun card. If you're still running Phyrexian Arena and you have a creature-based deck, I'd say give it a try. It's been really fun to play with. I'm always happy to see that in my hand. And this is an enchantment deck. And like you said, the only other artifact is Soul Ring.
Yeah.
That's kind of like one card I'm always happy to see.
Definitely. Another just fun card I saw that I kind of knew I didn't even realize existed, that I have a few decks. that could use it is a grievous wound.
Yeah.
Enchant player can't gain life. And whenever enchanted player is dealt damage, they lose half their life rounded up. Anytime you can turn off life gain and on a player in general, like that could be a pretty powerful ability. And just losing half your life every time
every instance of damage.
Yeah,
cut their life total in half.
Yeah, that's
and you can clone it with Terra. So it doesn't like. I mean, quartering a life total is very funny if you clone it with Terra.
Yeah.
But you can also kind of spread the pain by copying it over onto another player. I find this card has definitely made my play group play more blockers and keep blockers up.
Yeah.
Because if you put this on your neighbor and they just tapped out on a big play, suddenly there's a whole turn cycle of attackers bearing down on them that could just completely take them out of the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's another one of those very scary player removals. But the edge of Grievous Wound is I don't actually have to do the player removing. I can just tempt the token player to charge in with a bunch of 1/1s and completely like decimate their life total.
Yeah.
So I think that's another very tricky card. It's good in that it takes heat off of you. Mm-hmm. You make someone else a very appealing target, which if you are kind of a notorious player in your pod, can be a good way to still have your big tasty plays without putting yourself at too much risk. I don't have a ton of blockers in this deck. Terra is usually up, and I'm usually happy to like have her go to the graveyard so I can bring her back with one of my cheap resurrection spells. But I'd say like Grievous Wound is just going to absolutely like knock out the overextending aggressive player, and then you can overextend and be aggressive in return.
Exactly. It kind of fits with the theme of the deck too, right? Big scary for us to start off with, kind of draw a lot of aggro, not become the threat, come back around with some reanimation spells and stuff like this to really kind of sweep up in the end to seize victory from the jaws of defeat, from your opponent's perspective.
Yeah, you're really more playing like Kefka in this deck than Terra. You're convincing your opponents that you're not you must be dealt with. Oh, I've totally been dealt with. Like, oh, you got me. I'm just gonna let me play these few turns out, and then you can come back big with your graveyard later.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to the one.
The one.
All right. So I'm very excited to talk about this card
yes.
because it's one of those cards you kind of see and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, but like I don't know where I'd slot it in. So for you, your one is Invigorating Hot Springs. Yes,
definitely, probably, maybe one of the cheapest ones we will see on this channel. I love this card aesthetically. It's from the Neon Dynasty Kamigawa set. I think it's a great commander card if you are playing a deck where haste is a huge factor. Because one of the problems with running haste enablers in a deck is double haste tends not to do very much.
Yeah.
So, if I already have anger out, or if I have like anger in my graveyard, I've got in my mountain, all my creatures get haste, I draw Invigorating Hot Spring, it's not totally a dead draw. It can still come into play, and I can start putting counters on stuff. I can double up that counter trigger with my Mystic Snake guy. There's lots of like little fiddly things you can do by putting that counter in strategic places. But in general, it's in this deck because haste is so important. It's great on Odin. To get Odin there and smashing faster. It's great on Terra. It can give her, that third point of toughness that she needs to survive a lot of like cheap activated ability removal and stuff like that. But that haste on modified creatures clause will automatically trigger on your saga creatures, on your summons, because when they come into play, they get their first story counter, and that counts as a modification. So they're automatically hasted up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Haste is definitely, I think, one of those underrated kind of keyword abilities that you don't really realize like how powerful it can be it attacking or activating an ability, activate the ability of a creature the turn it comes down, tap ability, I guess I should say. But yeah, no, hey, being able to, and to your point too, just sometimes you just need to buff a creature a little bit to kind of break through and stalemate maybe against some slightly larger creatures if you needed to, right?
Yeah, especially in an aggro heavy pod where there are a lot of creatures being turned sideways. Combat damage is the honorable way to win in this
Yes.
pod. So it's really great, especially you want that haste for just like, the win harder aspect of getting Terra's Esper Terra's final ability, getting that 10 mana, and it flips her over to her front side. But because of that exile and back into play thing, she now has summoning sickness.
Yeah.
So you want that. You want some kind of haste trigger. She's going to lose the counter that you give her from the hot spring when she flips back over because it's an exile flip. But then she'll be modified again. So like if you've got a way to like keep that like proliferate or like copy chain going, haste is just so key for that, and it's so key for those like big surprising plays, those pushes at the late game. Like it's it's hard, and again it's hard like to overlap with that. Rhythm of the Wild is such a good card.
Yeah.
And it works really well with Invigorating Hot Springs, because now you can have your cake and eat it too. You can get the counter and the haste.
Yeah.
It's great in a singleton format where, again, you really want like that haste effect.
Yeah.
But if you have too many of them, it stops being like rewarding. You're still squeezing out that little bit of synergy.
Yeah, definitely. So to kind of wrap things up, how do you think this deck reflects kind of your normal play style? If it does, or is this something maybe that's kind of out of the norm for you? How would you, I know some people have played that kind of same types of decks all the time. Is this something that you feel like was kind of different for you, or what do you think about that?
I feel like this is kind of outside my wheelhouse a little bit. I usually play 1 or 2 color commanders. I love playing monocolor commanders because, again, hate spending money on land.
Yeah.
But I think like this is typical of my play style in that I've already accepted that I'm the arch enemy. Most of the people in my pod are people I've personally taught how to play Magic.
Yes.
Like, I've been the elder Magic player in this group for a long time. There are a few who like get wins more often than I do, but if there's a question on who to target, like most of the players in my pod will be like, probably attack Kevin. That's probably the best idea, which is a huge compliment. Which is and like I like making decks that work around that rather than trying to get salty or weird with my group, being like, you guys gotta stop trying to win the game and attack me so much. I'm like, okay, well, if I am going to be the arch enemy, how do I survive that? And the trick, and I've lost, it's got a 25% win rate because it's a commander deck, and that's just kind of how everything goes. But like the games I've pulled from the brink were because everyone thought I was done, and then I came back for the late round. So it's not typical of what I usually do. Usually I am a hyper control player. I like to take out threats, run a really, really long game, and make things slow down and go at the tempo I want things to go at. This is definitely more, I have a philosophy and I want to pursue it. So it's still got control elements. I still run a lot of board wipes. I still run a lot of target removal. I would say the most me deck was probably my Toshi deck that I've since disassembled, but that was a full-on mono black removal deck where I am just like trying to get like the game to run long enough that I can get all my demons into play and then I can roll the school. Like it's so yeah, is this deck typical of me? No, and it's also my first Universes Beyond deck, and I have it's kind of a moment where I can be like, well, as an Elder Magic player, as someone who remembers Prophecy fondly and read the Magic novels and stuff like that, I think this is a moment where I was like, oh, okay, like I can appreciate Universes Beyond. It's brought a lot of people into Magic. My mom plays now. Like,
oh wow, okay, there you go.
My play group is getting bigger and bigger because it's appealing to more and more people. Just like to see characters and situations they recognize. I think there's a balance that still needs to be struck, but after the Final Fantasy set, I can't deny that there's some great design, there's some great aesthetics, there's some cool stuff going on with Universes Beyond. I was very resistant, and it still kind of like tears at my soul a little bit to see non-Magic characters in Magic, but I don't know. I don't think it's been ultimately apocalyptic for the game so much as the absolutely relentless release cycle.
Yeah. And with that, Kevin, thank you so much for sitting down and talking about your Terra deck. It looks like a blast to play. I've been looking for a Terra deck actually to build, so I might just steal this list.
Do it.
Which you can find on the Show and Tell signature Moxfield site. Not sponsored, but I'm a big fan of Moxfield. I know you use an Architect. Architect is also a great site for uploading deck lists and kind of finding inspiration for new decks. And check out Kevin. Kevin makes a bunch of cool stuff. I will always rave about Space Kings, the Pretend Friends podcast, which he used to be on, used to host. Yes, the book. It's just a fun way to play. You know, if you're looking for something that's Dungeons and Dragons vibes, but without all the deep diving rules kind of stuff, I absolutely adore that game. And check out Kevin's other stuff. He makes a bunch of awesome video games as well. I'll link all his stuff below. And if you like what you've seen, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for having me.